Imagine building a dream only to be denied entry. Now imagine the man who denied you losing everything because you were the dream's architect. Stay with me. This story comes full circle. Meet Dr. Aliyah Vance, a self-made black CEO who rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most respected architectural minds in the nation. Her firm, Horizon Designs, didn't just construct buildings. They sculpted communities. Aliyah wasn't just about groundbreaking aesthetics. Her true genius lay in blending visionary design with profound social impact. She owned several successful ventures, quietly influencing the urban landscape. David wasn't loud about his wealth. He wasn't the type to flash it around. She believed true power was in thoughtful execution and silent strategy. 5 years ago, in a bustling community meeting hall, Aliyah stood before a skeptical crowd. She unveiled her vision, Genesis Towers, not just another housing project, but a beacon of affordable, high-quality living. Having grown up in neighborhoods where affordable often meant neglected, Aliyah knew this wasn't just a blueprint, it was a promise. Her impassioned speech, detailing light-filled apartments, integrated green spaces, and shared community facilities, resonated deeply. This was architecture born from empathy, designed to uplift, not just house. Back in her elegant minimalist office at Horizon Designs, Aliyah meticulously reviewed blueprints. Her firm's philosophy, architecture with purpose, was more than a motto. It was the foundation of every project. Each line, every curve, every material choice, was a deliberate step towards creating spaces that fostered well-being and connectivity. She wasn't chasing accolades. She was building legacies, one thoughtfully designed structure at a time. Her focus was unwavering, her dedication to her craft and its impact absolute. Aliyah understood that true influence often operated best outside the spotlight. This conviction led to the creation of the Vance Legacy Fund, her private philanthropic foundation designed for anonymous, strategic investments. Through this fund, she could inject vital capital into projects she believed in, without her name ever appearing on public documents. This quiet power allowed her to effect change on her own terms, ensuring her contributions were pure, unburdened by ego or the need for public recognition. It was a testament to her belief that impact speaks louder than fame. Today, Genesis Towers stood tall, a vibrant testament to Aliyah's vision. Its modern facades gleamed under the midday sun, a stark contrast to the dilapidated structures that once marred the skyline. Children laughed in the meticulously maintained playgrounds. Residents tended flourishing community gardens, and the scent of diverse cuisines wafted from open windows. It wasn't just housing, it was a thriving ecosystem, revitalizing the entire community. Genesis Towers had become a symbol of what was possible when design met genuine social commitment. Inside Genesis Towers, life pulsed with purpose. The ground floor housed a bustling community center, offering everything from after-school tutoring programs to job readiness workshops. Residents, once struggling, now found resources, support, and a sense of belonging. Educational programs flourished. Job fairs connected talent with opportunity, and social events knitted the diverse fabric of the community even tighter. This wasn't just a building, it was a lifeline, providing stability and fostering growth for hundreds of families. As Genesis Towers flourished, the Vance Legacy Fund quietly sought a property management company to ensure its continued smooth operation. That's when Sterling Properties, owned by Mr. Sterling Thorne, secured the lucrative contract. Thorne, a man whose ambition was only matched by his superficiality, saw Genesis Towers not as a community, but as a prestigious line item on his portfolio. His priorities were clear: maximize profit, maintain pristine appearances, and dismiss anything that didn't immediately contribute to his bottom line or his image. Mr. Sterling Thorne's lavish office, adorned with questionable modern art and photos of himself with minor dignitaries, was a shrine to his inflated ego. He believed appearances were everything, and anyone who didn't project an image of wealth and status was simply not worth his time. Community initiatives? He scoffed, waving a dismissive hand at an employee's suggestion. Unprofitable. We manage property, not social clubs. Keep the residents quiet, and the bills paid. That's all that matters. His arrogance was as palpable as the expensive cologne he wore. When the management contracts for Genesis Towers were signed, Thorne barely glanced at the fine print. The investment, he noted, came through a formidable yet anonymous entity, the Vance Legacy Fund. He assumed it was some faceless corporate conglomerate, perhaps a wealthy foundation run by old money. He certainly never imagined an individual, let alone a black woman, could be the driving force behind such a significant philanthropic venture. Thorne happily signed the deal, completely unaware of the quiet, powerful hand that controlled his very livelihood. One late afternoon, a quiet unease settled over Aliyah. Reports from Genesis Towers were good, but she felt a familiar tug to personally observe. She wanted to see her creation through the eyes of its residents, not through curated reports. Deciding against her usual sharp business attire, she chose a simple, elegant dress and a cardigan. She would arrive not as Dr. Aliyah Vance, the renowned CEO, but as just another visitor, ready to observe the unfiltered reality of the community she had so lovingly built. A soft Saturday afternoon sun warmed the bustling streets surrounding Genesis Towers. Dr. Aliyah Vance, choosing discretion over display, parked her modest sedan a block away, opting for a short walk. She moved with purpose, yet her casual attire, a simple navy dress, a light cardigan, and comfortable sneakers, allowed her to blend seamlessly into the vibrant neighborhood. This wasn't a corporate inspection, this was a personal pilgrimage. As she approached the grand entrance of the complex, a gentle smile played on her lips. She wasn't just observing a building, she was witnessing a dream take tangible form, a testament to her vision. Stepping into the expansive, light-filled lobby of Genesis Towers, Aliyah felt a quiet sense of triumph wash over her. Every clean line, every thoughtfully placed seating area, every glimmer of polished chrome spoke to her original design. The space hummed with life, a testament to its functionality and beauty. This wasn't just a structure of steel and glass, it was a living, breathing community hub. A profound, almost private pride swelled within her. Her architectural vision, once confined to blueprints and models, now stood realized, serving its purpose, impacting lives. Aliyah wandered into the meticulously kept community garden, a verdant oasis she had envisioned as a sanctuary. As she admired a blossoming rosebush, an elderly woman with kind eyes approached. "Isn't it beautiful, dear? This garden, this whole building. It's a blessing. So much light, so much comfort." The woman, Mrs. Henderson, patted Aliyah's arm. "You look like you appreciate good design, too. Not many folks passing through really see it." Aliyah met her gaze, a genuine warmth in her smile. "It's truly wonderful," she replied, a deep validation blooming in her chest. Mrs. Henderson moved on, humming softly, unaware she had just praised the architect herself. Thorne strode into the lobby, his gaze sweeping over the handful of residents and staff. A maintenance worker, Mr. Jenkins, offered a polite, "Good afternoon, Mr. Thorne." Thorne merely offered a curt nod, his eyes already dismissive, barely registering the man. His attention then landed on Aliyah, still quietly observing the architectural details of a wall panel. Dressed simply, standing unobtrusively, she was, in his estimation, clearly out of place. His lip curled almost imperceptibly. His mind had already made its judgment. She was another loiterer, someone who didn't fit the image wanted for his building. Mr. Sterling Thorne, still basking in the imagined glory of his arrival, scanned the immaculate lobby. His eyes, however, narrowed as they landed on Dr. Aliyah Vance. Dressed in her simple cardigan and unadorned skirt, she was an anomaly in his curated vision of Genesis Towers. What is she doing here? Asterisk, he thought, a familiar wave of annoyance washing over him. Becker Singh's another one trying to take advantage, no doubt. This isn't a soup kitchen. It's a premier community development. He straightened his expensive tie, a self-appointed guardian of the building's prestige. He couldn't abide by anyone who didn't fit his rigid image of success and belonging. With a determined stride, Thorne began to approach Aliyah, his face set in a mask of suspicion. She looked up, her calm gaze meeting his, utterly unaware of the storm brewing behind his narrowed eyes. Thorne stopped a respectful distance from Aliyah, though his posture radiated anything but respect. "Excuse me," he began, his voice dripping with condescension. "Can I help you? Or, more accurately, can you explain your presence here?" He paused, allowing his words to hang in the air. A silent accusation. "We aim to maintain a certain standard at Genesis Towers, and frankly, you seem rather out of place." He gestured vaguely at her attire, his gaze dismissive. Aliyah, however, did not flinch. Her expression remained serene, a stark contrast to Thorne's puffed-up arrogance. She simply tilted her head slightly, waiting for him to finish his unsolicited assessment. Her composure only seemed to irritate Thorne further, as if his carefully crafted insult had bounced right off her. "Look," Thorne continued, his voice rising in impatience. "This is not a public park. Residents and legitimate visitors have access, but we don't tolerate loitering. You don't fit the image we're cultivating here." He stepped closer, his tone turning overtly hostile. "Perhaps you're looking for the community center down on Elm Street? They have programs for individuals like yourself. This building, these opportunities, they're not for everyone. They're for people who contribute." The sting of his words was undeniable, a raw cut of prejudice thinly veiled as property management. Aliyah's jaw clenched almost imperceptibly, a flicker of something deeper passing through her eyes, but her outward demeanor remained steadfast. She refused to give him the satisfaction of a visible reaction. Aliyah took a slow, deliberate breath. "My intention was merely to observe the facility," she replied, her voice calm and even, devoid of any emotional tremor. "I find it helpful to understand how the design is functioning in a real-world context." She paused, her gaze unwavering. "Speaking of which, I noticed a slight inconsistency in the lobby's ventilation system during my walkthrough. Are the HVAC units on the second floor operating at optimal capacity, or has there been a recent adjustment to the building's airflow parameters?" Her question was precise, professional, and utterly unexpected. Thorne blinked, his bluster momentarily deflated by the technicality, a topic he clearly knew nothing about. He was caught off guard, his face a fleeting mask of confusion. Thorne quickly recovered, his confusion morphing into annoyance at being challenged. "That is absolutely none of your concern," he snapped, waving a dismissive hand. "You are not authorized to be scrutinizing our building systems. This is an active property, and you are creating a disturbance." His face reddened, his voice growing louder, drawing the attention of a few passing residents. "I'm telling you for the last time, you need to leave. Now. If you don't comply, I will call security, and you'll be escorted out. Do you understand? This is my building, and I decide who belongs here." He pointed emphatically towards the main exit, his authority now fully on display, a bullying performance for anyone within earshot. The weight of his disrespect settled heavily upon Aliyah. It wasn't just the words, it was the ingrained assumption, the casual dismissal of her very presence, her worth, her intelligence. She had faced prejudice before, navigated countless rooms where her talent was questioned because of her skin, her gender. But to be humiliated in a building she had literally conceived, designed, and funded, a place meant to uplift the very community he now implied she belonged to, that was a different kind of wound. A cold resolve began to crystallize within her. The quiet observation, the subtle corrections, were clearly not enough for a man like Thorne. He would not simply learn. He would have to be taught. Her anger, sharp and potent, transformed into a steely, strategic determination. The time for silent observation was over. Aliyah took another slow, deep breath, her gaze never leaving Thorne's indignant face. The tension in the lobby was palpable, a silent audience watching the unfolding drama. Instead of moving towards the exit, she reached into her simple handbag. Thorne watched, a smirk of triumph beginning to form on his lips, assuming she was finally fetching her belongings to leave. But then Aliyah pulled out not a wallet, but a sleek, modern smartphone. Her movements were deliberate, unhurried, almost ceremonial. She unlocked the screen, her thumb moving with practiced ease across the display, and calmly began to dial. "All right, Mr. Thorne," she stated, her voice now dangerously soft. "If that's truly how you feel about people like me in your building, then let's handle this another way." The moment she pulled out her phone, everything changes. You won't believe who she calls. She held Thorne's bewildered gaze, her expression unreadable but firm, as the phone connected. Aliyah brought the phone to her ear, her focus razor-sharp. "Mr. Davies," She spoke clearly, her voice now carrying an undeniable weight of authority. "I need you and Ms. Chen to come to Genesis Towers immediately." "Yes, the community housing project. I'm in the main lobby." Thorne's brow furrowed, a flicker of unease crossing his face. This wasn't the intimidated retreat he expected. Aliyah continued, her words precise and measured. "I require an immediate, comprehensive review of our investment portfolio concerning this property, specifically focusing on the management contract with Sterling Properties. Prepare all necessary documentation for a swift and complete withdrawal of the Vance Legacy Fund's assets." She listened for a moment, then added, "Yes, that's correct. Expedite the process. We will be waiting." She ended the call, her gaze returning to Thorne, whose face was now a canvas of growing confusion and a dawning, uncomfortable curiosity. He had no idea what was coming. Mr. Sterling Thorne watched Dr. Aliyah Vance coolly put her phone away, a faint smirk playing on his lips. "Oh, a little phone call, is it?" he scoffed, his voice dripping with condescension. He adjusted his expensive watch, supremely confident in his perceived authority. "You think that's going to change anything? This is Trinity Building, managed by Trinity Company. Your little charade is over. I'm telling you one last time, leave, now, or I'll have security escort you out." He gestured dismissively towards the exit, his eyes narrowing in a silent threat. Thorne believed he held all the cards, utterly oblivious to the fatal flaw in his arrogance. He was about to learn that true power doesn't always announce itself with a grand entrance. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in the most unexpected package. Aliyah, however, simply met his gaze, her expression serene, almost expectant, a quiet storm brewing behind her calm facade. But as Thorne basked in his imagined victory, a subtle shift occurred outside. Two sleek obsidian black SUVs, polished to a mirror shine, glided silently to a halt at the main entrance of Genesis Towers. Their presence was immediate, undeniable. Heads turned. A ripple of curiosity, then hushed murmurs spread through the lobby as residents and staff alike paused, drawn by the undeniable aura of importance emanating from the vehicles. The tinted windows offered no clue as to their occupants, only adding to the suspense. This wasn't a casual drop-off. This was an arrival. The air crackled with anticipation, a silent prelude to a dramatic unveiling. The stage was set, and the unsuspecting Mr. Thorne was about to receive a masterclass in humility. The doors of the SUVs opened with a soft hiss. Out stepped two impeccably dressed individuals, a sharp-suited man, Mr. Davies, with an air of understated command, and a poised woman, Miss Chen, whose tailored blazer exuded quiet confidence. They moved with a purposeful stride, their leather briefcases clutched firmly. Their eyes, however, weren't on the grand lobby, nor did they spare a glance for Mr. Sterling Thorne, who now stood perplexed, his dismissive smirk faltering. Instead, their gaze cut directly through the space, locking onto Dr. Aliyah Vance, who remained standing calmly by the information kiosk. It was clear who they had come for, and it certainly wasn't the puffed-up landlord. Thorne, bewildered, could only watch as these figures of undeniable authority bypassed him as if he were invisible, heading straight for the woman he had just tried to humiliate. As they reached Aliyah, the team's demeanor shifted from professional to overtly deferential. Mr. Davies extended a hand, a respectful bow accompanying his words. "Dr. Vance," he said, his voice hushed but clear. "We came as soon as you called. Is everything in order? Are you ready for us to proceed with the matter you discussed?" Miss Chen mirrored his respect, her gaze concerned. "We hope Mr. Thorne didn't cause you too much trouble, ma'am." Thorne's jaw dropped, his face slowly draining of color. "Dr. Vance?" he stammered, the name foreign on his tongue in this context. The stark contrast between his earlier insults and the team's profound respect was a physical blow. He watched, stunned, as the woman he had just berated nodded calmly, acknowledging their presence with a quiet dignity that now seemed utterly commanding. The moment stretched, thick with unspoken questions. Then, Mr. Davies turned, his expression now firm, addressing Aliyah directly, but loud enough for the stunned lobby to hear. "Dr. Vance," he reiterated, "shall we proceed with the withdrawal paperwork for the *Genesis Towers investment now, sir?" The words hung in the air, a bell tolling the end of an era. The entire lobby fell silent. Staff members who had seen Thorne's condescension countless times gasped, exchanging wide-eyed glances. A few residents who had witnessed the earlier confrontation looked on in utter confusion, then dawning comprehension. The casual woman in their midst was not merely a visitor. She was the very hand that fed this vibrant community. Thorne staggered back as if physically struck, the pieces of the puzzle crashing together in his mind. Thorne's eyes, wide with a dawning horror, darted from the impeccably dressed legal team to Aliyah, then back again. His carefully constructed facade of authority crumbled, replaced by a desperate, panicked disbelief. "Withdrawal paperwork?" he stuttered, his voice barely a whisper. "Genesis Towers investment? What are you talking about?" He pointed a trembling finger at Aliyah. "Dr. Vance? You are him? You're the investor?" His voice rose slightly, a desperate plea for this nightmare to be anything but true. The woman he had just scorned, the woman he deemed unworthy, the woman he had ordered to leave, was the silent force behind his entire operation. His world was tilting on its axis, and the realization hit him like a physical blow. This is the moment he realizes who she really is. Prepare for pure satisfaction. Aliyah turned slowly to face Mr. Sterling Thorne, her gaze steady, devoid of anger, yet radiating an undeniable power. Her voice was calm, clear, and utterly resolute, cutting through the stunned silence of the lobby. "Yes, Mr. Thorne," she confirmed, each word a hammer blow to his crumbling ego. "I am Dr. Aliyah Vance. I am the architect who designed Genesis Towers, and through the Vance Legacy Fund, I am the primary investor who has been funding this entire project." She paused, letting the full weight of her words settle. Then, her voice hardened, though still perfectly composed. "And after witnessing firsthand how you treat people, how you've treated Trem, in my own building, I see no reason to continue our partnership. Integrity is not negotiable." Thorne recoiled, his face contorted in a mask of horror and disbelief, his empire collapsing around him. Thorne's carefully constructed world imploded. His arrogance evaporated, replaced by raw, desperate fear. No, Dr. Vance, please," he stammered, his hands fluttering in a pathetic attempt to grasp at the situation. "It's a misunderstanding. I didn't realize. I didn't mean it like that. You must understand, this project, Sterling Properties, it needs you. It was a mistake, a terrible, terrible mistake." He pleaded, his voice rising in desperation, trying to justify his actions, to backtrack on every hateful word. But his words were hollow, ringing with hypocrisy in the silent lobby. Aliyah, however, simply took a subtle step back, maintaining a dignified distance. Her expression remained unyielding, a silent testament to the irreversible consequences of his prejudice. The legal team, without a word, began to open their briefcases, the rustle of papers a death knell for Sterling Thorne's reign. Mr. Sterling Thorne stammered, his face a mask of pleading desperation. "Dr. Vance, please. It was a misunderstanding, a terrible mistake. I didn't recognize you. You have to understand, Genesis Towers needs this investment. My company needs it." He stretched out a hand, a desperate, pathetic gesture of surrender. But Dr. Aliyah Vance merely shook her head, her gaze unwavering, her expression a study in calm resolve. She had heard these hollow apologies before, seen this kind of backtracking when power dynamics shifted, but true respect, she knew, wasn't something you offered only when it benefited you. It was a foundation, unshakable and unconditional. "Mr. Thorne," Aliyah said, her voice clear and firm, carrying through the stunned silence of the lobby, "respect is not a luxury afforded only to those you deem worthy based on appearance or perceived status. It is a fundamental expectation, and your actions today demonstrated a profound lack of it." She paused, letting her words sink in, then continued. "My decision stands. The Vance Legacy Fund will be withdrawing its investment." Thorne's face crumpled, the last flicker of hope dying in his eyes. He had misjudged her, and now he would pay the price. The legal team, Mr. Davies and Miss Chen, moved with efficient precision. They approached the sleek reception desk, their briefcases clicking open. Documents, crisp and official, were laid out before the stunned receptionist, who could only watch, wide-eyed, as her world and Mr. Thorne's began to unravel. Mr. Thorne, Mr. Davies stated, his voice devoid of emotion. Our team will be initiating the immediate cessation of all funds from the Vance Legacy Fund to Sterling Properties, effective immediately. This includes all operational capital for Genesis Towers, as well as any pending contracts and future allocations. Ms. Chen placed a pen on the stack of papers. These are the initial termination agreements. Your signature here acknowledges receipt. Thorne stared at the documents, then at Aliyah, then back at the papers. His empire, built on a foundation of unearned arrogance and the quiet support of a woman he had just humiliated, was crumbling before his very eyes. The cold, hard reality of the situation washed over him like an icy wave. This wasn't a threat. This was happening. "No, you can't," Thorne cried, his voice cracking, a desperate, pathetic plea. He stumbled forward, practically falling to his knees. "Dr. Vance, please, think of the community. Think of the residents. This project, it's a beacon of hope. You, of all people, understand its importance. Your fund, it's a legacy fund, isn't it? For philanthropic endeavors." The irony was thick, almost suffocating. He who had dismissed the very people Aliyah sought to uplift now invoked their plight to save himself. He who had judged her by the fabric of her clothing now appealed to her deep-seated philanthropy. His words were not born of genuine concern, but of raw, self-serving fear. He was no longer the pompous landlord, but a desperate man watching his entire world dissolve. Aliyah remained impassive, her gaze steady. She had dedicated her life to building up communities, to creating spaces of dignity and opportunity. She wouldn't let his belated, hypocritical pleas derail her commitment to true integrity. Aliyah stepped forward, moving closer to Thorne, who was still muttering incoherent apologies. Her voice, though calm, resonated with the weight of her conviction. "Mr. Thorne, the Genesis Towers project was built on a foundation of hope, yes, but more importantly, it was built on a foundation of respect for every individual who would walk through its doors. It was designed to uplift, not to diminish." She glanced around the lobby, making eye contact with the few staff members and residents who remained, silently witnessing the dramatic scene. "True power, Mr. Thorne," she continued, her voice rising slightly, "does not come from wealth or status. It comes from integrity. It comes from treating every single person with the same dignity, regardless of what they wear, or where they come from, or what you think they can afford." A quiet hum of agreement rippled through the onlookers. Aliyah's message was clear, a powerful affirmation of the values she embodied, and a stark condemnation of Thorne's prejudice. Her actions today weren't just about business. They were about justice, and a lesson for all who witnessed it. With Aliyah's powerful words hanging in the air, the legal team resumed their work. Mr. Davies presented the final document, a termination of contract, to Thorne. His hand trembled visibly as he reached for the pen, his signature a shaky scrawl. The receptionist, pale and wide-eyed, witnessed the final act of a corporate drama that would forever alter the landscape of Genesis Towers. "The withdrawal is official, Mr. Thorne," Ms. Chen stated, her tone final. "All funds, direct and indirect, associated with the Vance Legacy Fund will be immediately recalled. Sterling Properties, management contract for Genesis Towers is hereby terminated, effective at close of business today." She handed him a crisp copy of the signed termination notice. It was done. The vast financial lifeline that had propped up Sterling Properties, the silent force behind Genesis Towers, was severed. Thorne clutched the paper, the words blurring before his eyes, a death warrant for his company. As Aliyah and her team turned to leave, a wave of whispers swept through the lobby. Staff members, who had endured Thorne's condescension for months, exchanged knowing glances. Residents, who had heard his dismissive tone and felt his disdain, now looked at him with a mixture of pity and a profound sense of vindication. The story, born in arrogance and ending in humiliation, began to spread like wildfire. "Did you hear that?" one resident whispered to another. "She designed this place. He tried to kick out the woman who built it." A security guard, who had been on the verge of approaching Aliyah at Thorne's command, now averted his gaze, a quiet smirk playing on his lips. Thorne stood isolated, a figure of scorn and ridicule in the very building he had claimed to manage. The air, once thick with his self-importance, now vibrated with the collective realization of his colossal blunder. Mr. Sterling Thorne was left alone, a solitary figure in the vibrant, bustling lobby of Genesis Towers. The laughter of children from the courtyard, the gentle hum of activity from the community center, the very architectural brilliance he had dismissed, now mocked him. He looked around, his eyes devoid of their usual arrogant glint, seeing the elegant curves, the thoughtful spaces, the thriving community he had so carelessly disrespected. This wasn't just a building. It was Dr. Aliyah Vance's vision, brought to life, and he had treated its creator with contempt. The weight of his actions, the full, crushing realization of his prejudice and its immediate, devastating cost, settled upon him. His empire, built on a foundation of superficiality, had crumbled. His reputation, his authority, his very control over this magnificent structure had evaporated like mist in the morning sun. He had lost everything, not to a rival, but to the quiet power of the woman he had judged by her casual attire. The truth, once unleashed, travels faster than any rumor. Within hours of the incident at Genesis Towers, snippets of the confrontation, Thorne's arrogant dismissal, Aliyah's calm resolve, the dramatic arrival of her legal team, began to circulate online. A quick-witted resident had captured the pivotal moments on their phone, and soon, the video went viral. Social media feeds exploded with outrage, condemning Mr. Sterling Thorne's blatant prejudice. News outlets, quick to pick up on the local sensation, ran headlines like, "Architect humiliated by landlord turns out to be building savoir," and "Prejudice costs property mogul millions." The community, long aware of Thorne's condescending demeanor, found vindication in Aliyah Vance's quiet, yet devastating response. Her name became synonymous with dignity and undeniable power, while Thorne's was etched in the public consciousness as a cautionary tale of arrogance and bigotry. The online firestorm was just the beginning. The withdrawal of the Vance Legacy Fund's massive investment left Sterling Properties reeling. It was a financial blow Thorne's company couldn't absorb. Without that cornerstone funding, other investors, wary of the burgeoning scandal and the instability it presented, quickly pulled their capital. Contracts that were once certain evaporated overnight. The sleek, impersonal offices of Sterling Properties, once a symbol of Thorne's ambition, slowly emptied. Desks stood bare, computers went dark, and the hushed efficiency was replaced by an eerie silence. Soon, a stark "for sale" sign appeared in front of the building, a grim testament to a company collapsing under the weight of its owner's hubris. Mr. Sterling Thorne, the man who had once strutted around like a king, found his empire crumbling around him. The financial collapse of Sterling Properties was swift and brutal, but the personal cost was far greater. He lost his multi-million-dollar company, his carefully cultivated reputation was in tatters, and his lavish personal assets, once symbols of his perceived success, were systematically stripped away. We see him, a shadow of his former self, watching movers pack boxes from what was once his opulent mansion. His face, once etched with arrogance, now bore the deep lines of defeat and regret. He had believed appearances were everything, but in the end, it was his true character that cost him absolutely everything. But where one man's prejudice brought ruin, Dr. Aliyah Vance's vision brought renewed prosperity. The Vance Legacy Fund, having withdrawn its investment from Sterling Properties, promptly stepped in to assume direct management of Genesis Towers. Under the direct guidance of Aliyah's foundation, the community project not only stabilized but flourished beyond its original dreams. New educational programs were implemented, job training initiatives expanded, and community gardens bloomed with fresh produce. Aliyah, now openly interacting with residents, was greeted with smiles and genuine gratitude. Genesis Towers didn't just survive, it thrived, becoming an even brighter beacon of hope, proving that ethical, community-focused leadership could not only endure but uplift. Dr. Aliyah Vance, ever forward-thinking, didn't dwell on the past. Her focus remained on the future, a future built on integrity and respect. From her bustling office, she oversaw new blueprints, new projects, forging partnerships with leaders who shared her unwavering commitment to dignity and social impact. Her legacy was not merely etched in steel and glass, but in the lives she touched and the communities she transformed. She taught a powerful lesson. True influence isn't about flashing wealth or demanding deference. It's about quiet excellence, strategic action, and the unwavering belief that everyone, regardless of their appearance or background, deserves respect. So remember, prejudice has a cost, and sometimes that cost is everything. Never judge a book by its cover, because the person you look down on today might just be the one building your tomorrow. Dr. Aliyah Vance didn't just teach Mr. Sterling Thorne a personal lesson, she taught the entire community one. Respect is something you show everyone, not just the people you think can afford it. If you loved this story where justice comes full circle, hit that like button, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, and make sure to subscribe for more inspiring narratives of resilience and triumph.